Hello, Garland ISD family. Thank you for joining our Facebook Live via Zoom. My name is Jonathan Armstrong. I'm the coordinator of the Family and Community Engagement Department. We have some special guests with us here to talk about how families can support language and literacy at home. And we have some questions prepared for tonight. We'll also be looking for questions in the chat from our families. So please comment on this video, any questions that you have. Our team is monitoring the chat and they will be answering questions in the chat and selecting some of the questions for the panel members. So as always, please remember to like and share this video. So hello, amazing panel members. Please introduce yourself and tell us about how you serve families in GISD.
I don't mind going first, Jonathan. I'm Dr. Angie Davis, and I work with Renaissance Learning, and I help facilitate Mayan, the online digital library for Garland ISD and all of the communities, including Saxe, Rowlett, as well as Garland. So I am a big part of the school district as well as the community. I get to spend time in both locations, and it's just an awesome opportunity. I have a long past in education as principal, as teacher, as district and school administration, and a longstanding background in inclusion as well as dyslexia. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm super excited to be here and answer any questions you guys may have.
We're glad you're here. And Ms. Bass?
Yes, good evening, everybody. So good to be here tonight. My name is Chastity Bass, and I'm the Early Childhood Coordinator for our district, and I get the privilege of serving the youngest in the district. And so it is just a joy. I've been doing this now for maybe about 9 months, and so I have just enjoyed it so much. I get to support by ensuring that your children, the children that come to pre-K, get to experience high quality pre-K. All right. And so that is just a joy of mine. I've gotten to serve over the past 13 plus years in GISD with teaching, also being an instructional coach, as well as writing curriculum as an IDF, and now as the early literacy coordinator, early childhood coordinator. So glad to be here tonight.
Thank you. And Ms. Ramos?
Hello, hola, good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. My name is Claudia Ramos, and I am a sheltered instruction specialist. I have been in the district. This is my 19th year. I started teaching bilingual, and then I moved into bilingual instructional support teacher. And now I get to support teachers as they help their students, especially their language learners.
All right. And Mr. Murray?
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is John Murray. I'm a very proud 9th grade English teacher here at Saxe High School. It's my 7th year since coming back to teaching. I'm very proud to say I'm a 20-year Air Force officer, retired military officer, and Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran. Service is my calling. It's always been the calling of my family as well. And I'll tell you, there's nothing that I'm more proud of than standing in front of 171 14-year-olds every other day and getting a chance to teach English with them. Here at Saxe High School and across our district, literacy is the absolute priority. And it doesn't matter what discipline you're talking, whether you're talking science or math or history or whatever, being able to read about it, being able to talk about it, being able to write about it, those are the tickets to success. And in our district, from the superintendent on down, we are committed to that. Children of all ages, and we want to see them successful. And we understand the partnership that we need to have with our families. And when the families are putting a strong literacy approach at home, and then these kids come to school and we are lighting their fires, there's a reason why Garland ISD is so successful at what we do. In addition to my chances to be with Saxe High School, I'm also very honored. I'm a member of the College Board and Springboard National Faculty. Springboard is the honors-related curriculum that our district uses for 6th grade all the way up through 10th grade primarily. And it gets these kids ready for college at a very early age. And we teach them it doesn't matter what the piece of literature you're reading. Can you explain it? Can you put it in your words? Let's tap into your beautiful, gifted, and talented interpretation of it. Let's tap into that beautiful cultural language background that you have that's different from everybody else. And we celebrate those as part of our literacy commitment. And I'm very proud to say I get to do this every day, and I cannot wait to share with you some of the stories that I have.
All right. Thank you. So would you do us a favor? Share your personal story as it relates to language and literacy. How have you or your family members supported language and literacy outside the classroom? So, Ms. Davis, would you start us?
Absolutely. Well, I have to kind of tell you my story very quickly. I grew up in a town where education was not highly regarded, unfortunately, but I had incredible parents. I had 4 parents that supported me and loved me and made sure I had books in my hand. I was diagnosed with dyslexia myself as a child in the 4th grade, so I didn't even read my first book until the 4th grade. And the first book I ever picked up that I fell in love with was called Satin Slippers, because I loved dance and I loved ballet. And so that really just, spurred my interest. But what really was changing for me was just my mom and my parents just constantly, even if you can't read the book, I'll read it aloud to you. They did everything they could. And I'm so thankful for it now. I have a son that also has dyslexia. And so I do the same with him. Even when we're in the car, we'll listen to a book on Audible, or I use VoiceOver on my phone, and we'll listen to one of his books for school. So we just really try to make the most of every moment. And, in the end, I feel very proud of the accomplishments I've made. And, I love being an advocate for reading, because, like I said, it was a huge, turning point in my life with my family and just my parents really pushing me to that next level. And, regardless of what it took, so I was very fortunate to have that.
Awesome. And Miss Bass?
Yes. All right, y'all. I'm a Garland girl. I grew up here in GISD. So I went to Bradfield Elementary School. I went to Jackson Middle School, and then I went to North Garland High School. So I tell you, sorry, Mr. Murray. And so I tell you, I just have enjoyed my language and literacy began right here in GISD, y'all. So I'm a product of GISD and a proud product of GISD. And much like you, Angie, my mother, of course, she was the one who made sure that we would go over there and sit down. My mother would have us to get the Bible. Go over there and get that Bible. And she would have us to come sit next to her. She wanted to hear us read. So those times, just sitting with her, I remember that as a child. And after I graduated from North Garland High School, I went on to Texas Tech University. So I'm a Raider all the way. And a couple of lessons that I learned at Texas Tech that I carried with me from my professors. 2 lessons. Number 1, dinner room conversations. One of my professors stressed that, and I sat there and I just looked, and I was thinking, what is she talking about? But when I became a parent, that is a lesson that I tried to make sure to put into practice, is to have those dinner room conversations. That's where it all begins, right? Grocery store conversations, right? With our children, whether they can talk to us or not. And then that second conversation, the second lesson that I learned was about the importance of children's literature. So I brought some with me tonight, y'all. That importance of children's literature, making sure that we are reading to our children all the time. And then we'll talk about some other resources later. But these are free things, right? This is free. This is something we can do on an ongoing basis that will help support our learners. And then one of the ways that I'm supporting families in the district is that we are doing a book study with the teachers this year, and it's called 30 Million Words. And I tell you, this is just absolutely powerful for providing foundations for our boys and girls from 0 to age 3 and really 0 to age 5, really talking about the language, the importance of language and literacy. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So those are some of the things that I'm doing in the district to help support our teachers to share with the parents.
Good. Ms. Ramos.
My mom was the first person in my family to graduate from college. So that foundation has been there. We are originally from Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela and I moved to the United States in the year 2000. Now, literacy, I have always been surrounded by books. My parents absolutely made sure that we were always surrounded by books. And just that development was never questioned, ever. You will learn to read, you will learn to analyze. We are going to talk about literacy. That was a given. That was the expectation. The expectation was that we were going to grow as learners. and that we were going to become critical thinkers and risk takers. And, you know, we absolutely knew we were going to learn another language. My first language is Spanish. I learned English when I was 6. We moved to the United States because my mom was working on her master's degree, and then we went back home. So I think that literacy has always been around us and in my family naturally. I want to agree with what Ms. Bass was saying. You know, those conversations at the table, those dinner conversations, that just sharing vocabulary, sharing words, sharing experiences is so enriching. And even though we might be working or communicating with our younger or our littles or our children at home, just that foundation is extremely important. In my family, with my own family, being bilingual and being biliterate is super important, and that's what we are promoting in our family. So we speak in Spanish, we speak in English, we have a lot of literature in both languages, and we read to our children at home every single night, and we talk about stories and we talk about our experiences, and we make connections with what we're doing, what we're reading, what we're living, what we're doing, what's going on, because that's the way to grow up, as I said, becoming a critical thinker and understanding that everything that surrounds us defines us, but how we learn about it also helps us grow.
Thank you. And Mr. Murray.
Well, I had mentioned having been in the Air Force for 20 years. I'm also a military brat, and my dad was in for 30. And the story that I'll tell folks is that from 8th grade to the time that I graduated high school, I was in Okinawa, Japan. And it was at my early age that I appreciated the fact that I was sitting in a classroom with people of so many different nationalities and so many different cultures that it made learning fantastic. And that's something that I want all families to celebrate. And it's not the fact that because you're in Garland High School or because many of our families in our district have immigrated to the United States. Never lose your culture, never lose your language, celebrate that, bring it to the classroom because we all learn from it. Being in Okinawa, Japan, I immersed into the culture to the point that I can speak Japanese very comfortably. And immersing into that culture made me experience things I would never have experienced before. Well, the culture that we're talking about tonight is, in fact, literacy. No matter where the books take you, no matter what the story is, whether it's real or whether it's fiction or whether it's comic book or graphic novel, the journey that it's going to take you on, can you read about it? Can you talk about it to somebody else? Can you write about it if we needed to get into a testing environment or college applications or military readiness, etc.? But go on that journey. One of the activities that we're doing in my class is that we're about to do the 5-song playlist of my life. And the challenge to the students is that I'm going to ask who you are, and you have to tell me in a single listing of 5 different songs in the history of ever, what songs make up your life. You have to tell me what the lyrics mean. We're going to do that English class analyzing of it, which is fantastic. But then I want to know why. Why did that song make your list? And it's our kids' ability to explain things. The dinner conversation's fantastic. And what a lot of times parents will get a little concerned about is like, I'm not the teacher. What do you want me to teach them? Don't want you to teach them. We want you to listen to them. And they will teach us so much. Tell me. And from a dinner conversation, one of the best things to do, just the easiest thing to do, is sit at the table. If you've got littles, if you got a 5, 6, 7-year-old there, look at the dinner table and say, I want you to explain this meal to me. Tell me every color. Give me a description. Give me a comparison. When you can do that, you can write at the college level. And it doesn't matter if you're 7 years old or about to graduate. It's your ability to look at it and talk to somebody else about it. And I learned that from a different culture. Now, talking about this playlist, I was hoping the questions came, and they did. beautiful young Hispanic girl. Mr. Murray, do the songs have to be in English? Absolutely not. They don't have to be in English. This is literature. Now, I said I need you to explain them in English, and that just celebrates their culture even more. Young Vietnamese man said, Mr. Murray, I have a song, but I don't think it's a famous song, but my grandma used to sing it to me. And I said, you better have that song on your playlist because now I have to see it. He communicated to me, he got me bought into it. I now want to celebrate that. And when we can make that match with our kids, to celebrate the most basic elements of culture, to talk about what's on the dinner table, to explain what are you reading and what's your favorite part about it. When the kids can do that, they are just lighting the fires of success. So that's what I'm very excited about. And I think my immersion into being raised in the Far East and the Japanese culture, having deployed to Baghdad, Iraq for a year and getting to celebrate the Middle Eastern culture, etc. I just love what everybody brings. And that is a big celebration of our district as well.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. One thing I heard kind of listening to everybody was how important it is for parents to listen, right? We can pose the question, but then we have to stop. Or we can make a comment that leads into something and then we have to stop. And one of the cardinal sins of parenting is being too busy, right? And so as parents, we have to slow down and we have to create that moment and that little space where we can really listen. And that's what I heard from each one of your stories, is how important listening has been as a parent or as a child, having someone listen to you, and then as an adult with your students, with your children, listening. So I loved hearing those stories. Thank y'all so much. Dr. Davis, I have a question for you. Can you tell us more about how families and community members can access Mayan?
Absolutely. I was excited to hear all of those wonderful things, because one of the great things at dinner you could do was talk about books on Mayan. So Mayan is an online digital library, and the students have over 8,000 titles to choose from that range from pre-K all the way up to adult level. And then our community has just a little over 4,000 as well, and it's completely free. So Garland ISD is an amazing partner with us and the Literacy for Life initiative, and they have paid for every single person in Garland, Saxe, and Rowlett to have a free account. So even if you have a child that hasn't started school yet, or you're a parent wanting to learn English, we have a lot of families that utilize Mayan for that. You can access these amazing online books, and in your resources, you'll have a link to our Literacy for Life page where you can go and create a free account. And I'd say most of the books, 90% of the books are read aloud, but they're not read aloud by a computer. They're actually read aloud by people. They're read aloud by actors and actresses, which is nice because, sometimes we get a little bored listening to Siri and Alexa, not that I don't love them, but, it's great to hear actual authentic voices. And then we've just added another 1,000 Spanish titles, which is very exciting. We also have bilingual books, and we're going to be adding Vietnamese titles right after the first of the year. So we're excited. I mean, even as a company, we're growing in our culture and, of course, celebrating yours. And then one of the things I love to do is the reading challenges. And we have a big one coming up and just next week on September 15th. And it's our Hispanic Heritage Challenge. So with that challenge, we're challenging the kids to read 400 minutes. And that also goes for our community too. And we work with the community and we provide fun prizes and things like that, and just honor those students in those schools that just really appreciate literacy in those families that just rise to the top. So it's a really fun opportunity to get them engaged too and get them excited. I'm seeing a lot more of our high school and middle school kids getting involved too, because the prizes have gotten better and better thanks to some amazing community partners. And I have 2 teen boys, so I completely understand how difficult sometimes those conversations can be at dinner, because I get the I don't know, just like everybody else. So, Mayan has really been a good jumping point for us. And I've also just, through some of the books that we've read through Mayan or even listened to, I'll just ask them, how are you feeling? Like, how does that book make you feel? Kind of to go back to Mr. Murray. And it really forces them to really not just say, oh, this is what happened in the book, but it really helps them delve, deep dive into what they're feeling and thinking. So that's been kind of one of the ways that I've utilized it in my own home, but it's just a really exciting opportunity. No other district in this area has that and has it for the entire community. So Garland has really stepped forward and wants to support their families in literacy through this Literacy for Life initiative. And I'm just super lucky to be a part of it. But like I said, just please go on and get your free account. You can get an account for yourself. Your students will log in through ReadyHub because they'll have a little bit more, like I said, they have more books to choose from on ReadyHub, and they get to actually take a placement assessment, 10, 15 minutes. It's completely optional that will make sure they have just the right book. But even as community members, you guys still have a ton of amazing books that are going to be free for you.
Thank you. So from the chat, educators, administrators, some of our families are wondering about eliciting that conversation, those open-ended questions and ways to really draw your students out. So jump in, Miss Bass, if you have an idea about those younger grades, or Mr. Murray, secondary, secondary kids are, I don't know, right? But there are things we can do as parents to really show our kids that we're interested. And open-ended questions is one of those strategies. So what are some of your favorite questions or any other ideas about open-ended questions and drawing your kids out?
All right. So for the littles, setting that routine, y'all know they're very routine oriented. So they know every day when I come home, I put my backpack here, I do this, then I grab a snack, because we know that at the end of the day, we've talked about it together as a team, we're all hungry. So a great way, so even it might not be dinner yet, but it might be snack time, right? When they get home, they've got that routine down and they automatically know, okay, I'm going to sit down and have my Cheerios or have my Cheez-Its or whatever, and then start off sharing about your day. Tell them how your day went and just say, boy, today work went great. And this is what happened that went well about it. So become that model. Right? We want to be a model of these conversations. And you're just eating snack with them, right? Because you know how our early childhood, they do a lot through play. And so if you're sitting there eating along with them and you open up about your day and be a model for them, and then just say, well, how did your day go? Or tell me and maybe be specific, how was your lunchtime? Or how was your reading class today? And then I tell you, that'll help them really open up, because you are setting that example, and also you're feeding their brain and their tummies at the same time.
I'm going to step in. I think one thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Murray. One thing that I do is I leave it open-ended. I kind of don't ask a question, but I say, tell me about something that you did not like today. And I start with something that they wouldn't expect. Instead of saying, tell me about something that you really, really like today, or tell me about a new friend that you made today, or tell me a conversation you had with your teacher, or, something like that, that will kind of spark a response from them.
Love these answers from everyone. I want to give parents the reassurance of something. Sometimes our kids are going to be a lot smarter than us, and that's okay. We need not have read the book first before the kids can tell us about it. My daughter's about to finish her master's degree at SMU, and my son is on scholarship at UT Arlington to be in architecture. And I'm going to tell you right now, for about 5 or 6 straight years, they would show me their homework. I wouldn't know what it said, but I'd confirm that they did it. So to have an open conversation with your kids about what they're reading, you don't even need to know what the story's about. They'll tell you. Challenge them. Say, listen, I'm interested in your book. In about 60 seconds, tell me about it. They'll tell you about the characters and the setting and what's going on, and if there's a lesson to be learned. All you want to do, did they explain it well? When they can, they're going to be successful. And you're going to find you'll see the joy that they have in it as well. I love Dr. Davis's comment about the Mayan. What's beautiful about that is we're a big proponent district of students selecting literature that they care about. And we're a big proponent of a district where we understand that kids will want to read stories where the characters look like them. Instead of everybody reading the same dry, boring, oh, I don't want to read this. No, all of a sudden we have lead characters that resemble them, their skin tone, their cultural and ethnic backgrounds, how they see the world, things that they're experiencing, good and bad, and they connect with those readers, and those characters, and then they can talk about it. We started with very, very short pieces, but I didn't give away to the kids yet, but I would challenge my parents, and my parents are wonderful for the students that I have at Saxe. We read an excerpt from the book, I Am Malala. And we read a short story about the surfer, Bethany Hamilton. We read a piece from the Lost Boys of Sudan. And then just today, a gorgeous piece called Why Couldn't I Have Been Named Ashley? All four of those stories feature characters of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And it wasn't until the kids discovered it and they said, wait a second, Mr. Murray, all of those characters are 14. Why, yes, they are. And so are you. Now tell me what you think about it. Ask those open-ended questions to your kids. What's it about? Now, how do you feel about it? Which character in the story best resembles you? If you were in that story, would you have done the same thing? And let them go. Always ask them that question, why? And when they can start answering the why question, literacy is happening.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are some great answers. I remember when I was probably in 6th grade, I was in a program or was at a program at the library, and I got out and I went to my mom and I started talking everything, right? Now that my kids are telling me, I'm like, man, my mom was so patient with me, right? Because I word for word repeated the whole program probably. But parents, when you really listen to your child, that's when you're going to know the follow-up questions. So Mr. Murray is talking about these questions, and we have to listen first so we can figure out what the right question is. But even if we ask the wrong question, the interest that you're showing in your child will encourage them to continue talking to you. And that's a key takeaway. We might not get it right every time, but the more we get into these conversations, the more we will encourage our children's language and literacy development. Lakeisha, do you have any questions for us from the chat?
I do. Thank you so much, Mr. Armstrong. This is great conversation. I'm taking lots of notes as our wonderful panelists are sharing tonight. One of the questions, we've got several parents that said they have registered for the Littles program. They're wondering, when are they going to get information? They're sitting on the edge of their seats, Ms. Bass, and some of our listeners don't even know what that is necessarily. So they're chiming in to ask, well, what are y'all registering for? So can you tell us about that and let parents know when to expect what?
Well, I'll start off with just sharing what the Littles Club is, and then I'll let Mr. Armstrong let you all know about when you're going to get some information coming. So the GISD Littles is such an exciting program. It is offered for ages 0 to 5. And what you will receive when you sign up is weekly emails with developmental tips and tricks from Ready Rosie, which is a great program that we use in GISD. Also, you'll get access to My On, which Dr. Angie Davis has been sharing with you. So the great thing about My On is you don't have to be enrolled in GISD. It is open to the community. Also, you'll be able to ask questions about child development. And y'all know, me being a parent, I often had questions about my own children's development. You'll be able to ask questions. Also, you'll be able to have a tour of GISD pre-K and elementary schools. And I don't know about you all, but that's very exciting to me because I want to know my options in GISD for pre-K. We have 29 satellite campuses that offer pre-K within our district, and we have 2 pre-K centers, and you'll be able to get familiar with that with the GISD Littles. And also, you'll get special invites to age-appropriate events. And y'all know that is so important, that things are developmentally appropriate for our children. And the great thing about having our high quality pre-K and having this GISD Littles Club is that research has shown that having a high quality pre-K and foundation leads those boys and girls all the way to graduation. So all of us are connected here today because of the great foundations that we get to provide for our boys and girls in GISD.
Thank you. And if my part of that question is how long do they wait to hear back? My understanding is there should be an email within the day, but I am actually checking on that. I have reached out to someone to find out that exact answer because I don't want to mislead anybody. But those are weekly emails that go out. And so once you get on that list, I'm not sure exactly what day of the week they go out, Sunday, Monday, but families should start receiving those. But I believe there is a confirmation email, and we will know for sure before this program is over, I hope. All right. Ms. Culpepper, any other questions from the chat we can address right now?
Nothing right now. I'm working on a couple, but if you want to progress through some of the questions that we had, that would be great.
Absolutely. So this is a question for Ms. Ramos. What is sheltered instruction, and how can families support our English language learners?
You know, that is an excellent, excellent question. I am going to tell you. I can start by saying it's an instructional approach and it's what teachers can do. But the reality is we can all apply sheltered instruction to our students. Sheltered instruction is offering our students the availability to have better access to the content they are learning and to acquire more of the language they are learning so they can grow as learners. Okay, the idea is that teachers that work with our students, especially our language learners, implement certain strategies that are very easy, very, very easy to implement so that they can help our language learners have better access to the academic content they are acquiring and also grow as language, grow in their language. Okay, so for example, front loading the vocabulary when a unit starts, front loading that academic vocabulary, highlighting that academic vocabulary so the students can read it and listen to it and use it in their, when they communicate. Offering supports, maybe, for example, with a sentence stem so they can have an idea as to what the expectation for a response is. So if, for example, a teacher asks a question to a student, then the teacher will also provide a sample of what the response could look like so that the students can have a little bit of support when providing that response. Now, that doesn't mean the student will have to use that sentence exactly the way it was presented to them. But as I said, it's a support. And then the idea, the ultimate goal is that the student can communicate their learning, communicate the mastery of the content independently. So the supports will be there with the idea and the goal to remove them so that we can have the student communicate effectively, independently in an authentic situation. That is why all of these suggestions and all of these activities that are suggested are so, so excellent because it gives us a frame to help our students, but then to take the support away and just leave the opportunity for them to demonstrate mastery.
Thank you. I've got a question about that. The strategies that our teachers work with our students, right, to kind of build and scaffold them up and then take away the support. Do you feel like that's so different than what families do with their kids as they're analyzing what their kids are talking about and then, you know, challenging them and then kind of getting the kid to go a little bit further by themselves?
No, that's why I actually began with, okay, this is the standard reply, but no, it is not different at all. The teacher is a facilitator of the information. And just like, we've said before, they don't have to be the experts. Parents do not have to be the experts in an area, but we do have to help spark the conversation so that there's a response, so that when, just like a conversation between, anyone, adults, anyone, where I say something expecting a response from the person that I'm communicating with. Well, we are modeling that with our students. In the case of our language learners, the modeling has to be a little bit more explicit, because they know and they understand that a response is expected. We just need to help them frame that response by offering, help with the vocabulary, help with the sentences, help with the organization of the sentences, so they can organize their ideas in their head and then produce a response so that the conversation can continue and the conversation can keep going. So no, in answer to your question, it is not that different.
So, and this is me butting in on y'all's program, and I'm sorry, but for families where maybe their child, and so Angie, Ms. Davis, I'm kind of going to throw this one at you. You talked about dyslexia, right? And so now we're talking about challenging our children, finding where they're at, giving them opportunities to really be authentic, and then challenging them and working with their limitations, but expecting them that they're going to have a response and stretch. What are some of the things that a family might say, well, my child's not in sheltered instruction, but there's still strategies for teaching and facilitating, and I love that word, facilitating. So what are some of the things for some of our families whose children, maybe the child says, I'm a different kind of learner, right? What are some of the things our families can do there?
Well, for example, at Mayan, we have a lot of features, and I didn't go into those features tonight, but there's a lot of features where it will track the words for the students, which was something that I did with my son. And like I said, the authentic voice is very helpful, because there's tons of research that shows that, listening to the books is incredibly helpful. I know for myself, even when I was in graduate school, I would listen to the journals all day long as I drove from school to school. And then when I got home, it made it so much easier to read, because I already had a premise of what was going on. And so with Mayan, they are able to have all these different modalities. They're able to listen to it, they're able to see it, and you can see the words tracking. And those are things you can take off and, put back on. There's audio features where the students could speak in, and, the journal will dictate some of the information that they're saying. There's just lots of different things that will help support those students. And if anything, it's engaging and it's confidence. So, the first time my son listened to one of the books, it was one of his favorite ones about summer camp. And, the first time he was able to listen to that book, because he saw his friends, walking around with the Diary of Wimpy Kid, and he wanted to be able to read that and couldn't. And instead of getting frustrated, he came home and said, Mom, is it on Mayan? And I was like, yeah. So let's listen to it. So he was able to still have those conversations with his peers and be a part of it without, having to stress through some of those language barriers that he had. So, there's just so many different things that are embedded in the program that will help support any student and adults. Like I said, we have a ton of adults with some reading difficulties that we work with. It's one of our partners that we work with that I just adore working with them, and our community partnerships. And they're all adults learning how to read. And Mayan's just been incredibly helpful, because not only is it, they're listening to authentic voices and they're talking to them, and it's, they don't speak English. So it really helps them learn those words and just the cadence of how we speak and how we pause at different parts of sentences and things like that. So it really serves as a great model for any of those scenarios.
Can I butt in? One of the strategies that we use a lot in sheltered instruction is response signals. So it doesn't always have to be verbal. A thumbs up is a great response for something that you like or you don't like. So when our students can't verbalize what they understand or a response, a response signal is an excellent way to gauge whether, there's a response from our students, as I said, with a thumbs up or some other way that we can communicate with them, that they can communicate with us as well. So our non-English speakers can also participate in that conversation, even with a signal.
Thank you. Ms. Culpepper, any other questions from the chat?
We don't see any questions. You guys have done such a great job. We've been answering some of the questions that have popped up. And as you know, Jonathan, I think we're good to wind down to that final question of really, what did we not get to? We want to give our panelists an opportunity to have the last word.
Dr. Davis, any last words?
No, I just really encourage everybody to go onto our Literacy for Life site and, just explore and get an account. It's completely free. And I'm just excited to see the amazing transformation this community is going to experience as it just continues to grow with literacy.
And Ms. Bass, any last words?
Absolutely. Don't miss the opportunity to enroll your students in pre-K. Our district does a great job with letting you know the dates when to sign your boys and girls up. So we want you to make sure our pre-K is full day. It's offered for 4-year-olds. We also have some 3-year-old programs in Montessori, and this year we're piloting 2 other 3-year-old programs. So y'all look for all of that information to come out to you. And why should you do this? Because you get certified teachers. Okay, to teach your boys and girls. Also, paraprofessionals will be in the classrooms with them. We are 11-to-1 ratio. So your boys and girls are going to get some great support. Our curriculum is research-based and it's rigorous. So they're going to be kindergarten ready. Okay, so make sure to sign up, and it is free. I got to say that. Absolutely. Okay, some of the things you can do at home, all of us have said it a few times over and over again. Talk more. This book is not just for the teachers, it's for you all too. Tune in, talk more, and take turns. And that is our goal. So tune in means we put down our phones, y'all. Okay, our generation has changed some, right, over the years because of our cell phone. I got mine right here, right? Turn that cell phone over. Look at your child. Talk to your child. Tune into them. Talk more. Okay, encourage them to talk more and take turns. So that means keep the conversation going. Okay, so great book. There's a resource page that I shared with you all, so that way you can see some of the great resources that we offer to you all. Talk more, sing, use your public library, read daily, work on name identification, and look at that resource page because it's some great things there to help you and your family so that you have strong literacy and language foundations. We look forward to seeing you and your children when they turn 4.
Thanks, Ms. Bass. Ms. Ramos, last words?
Yes. Not everything that our kids read will appeal to us. But one of the things we do here at home is whatever my son or my daughter like, we try to find the literature for it so that we can communicate with them. So it's pretty obvious my daughter likes The Descendants, so we get the books from The Descendants. We love the movies, and then we buy the written version of the movies, and then we sit down and we compare. I think one thing that's very important is to validate what they like, and so that we can continue that conversation. I definitely agree with Dr. Davis and with Chastity and with Mr. Murray to keep that conversation going, provide a response to what they are doing, and be open to them needing more resources, even if we don't agree completely with them or they're not of our liking. We might learn something because we are here to learn from each other. I think it's very important that we really dedicate time to, learning more about other things so that that conversation can be more enriching, and learning more about other aspects, maybe learn to cook together and do other activities that involve reading, but reading different literature. A cookbook is a great way to communicate and do something together and do activities together. I definitely second what Chastity was saying. Put the phone down and look at each other and talk and communicate and have fun. Have fun while we learn, and have fun watching our kids grow and enjoying all these time that we have with them.
Thank you. And Mr. Murray, we've talked about early childhood and early literacy. And you're on the other end of the spectrum as students are thinking about college and career. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you, first off, this is just invigorating to be able to share with the community, because as I mentioned, we're such strong partners. And none of us can do what we do if it weren't for the parents and the support at home. None of us could do this. I can't take these kids for 90 minutes. And now I like to tell people I change lives, but I need a lot of help. So a couple of things on behalf of the teachers of this district, we love what we do. If you hadn't figured that out, you don't work in Garland ISD if you don't love kids and you don't love what you do. It's rule number one. Here at my campus, our principal, Shay Creel, rule number one, is it good for the kids? Rule number two, you better go back to rule number one. And when we can put all that together, we are very, very successful. Parents at home, it sounds overwhelming when you hear Ms. Bass and Ms. Ramos and Dr. Davis, and we understand that many work all day. And then you come home and the kids are coming home and you have homework to check and you're like, I'm not the teacher. Our encouragement, it's not even a challenge. Our encouragement as our partners, ask the kids. They'll do the work. Ask them about it. Never be afraid to say, listen, I'm just too tired to read your essay right now. Draw a picture. If a kid can take what he or she has read from these wonderful stories, no matter what they were, give them 30 minutes to sit down with their colored pencils or crayons or markers and say, you know what, come see me and bring a picture that shows what you read today. There is as much literacy in a picture with 4 colored crayons than there is in a 12-page essay that you would write for college. I can see what you know by how you communicate it to me. And that's what I want you to do with your kids, and celebrate it and have fun and hang those pictures up and send it to your teacher, and your teacher will cry tears of joy with you, because we have changed these kids' lives. Now, Jonathan had mentioned about the college and career and military readiness. Very proud military veteran. I know what it takes to succeed in the military, being a career military officer, been in the career sector, the private sector as well. And I love being a teacher. And I'll tell you, what we do gets these kids ready. So from a literacy standpoint, my final words are this. Reading in a school environment, when you start thinking about tests, it's always silent. And it's just the worst. It's silent because it's a test. And what we caution our kids, their eyes, they're so smart. Their eyes, if your brain can pronounce the words, you'll go right past it. Slow them down. Make them talk about it. Make them draw a picture about it. Make them write a song about it. Let them talk about it. And don't just read that book in silence. And we tell our kids before we send them off to college, if you can't write about it, you don't know about it. So communicate. You start early. You plant those seeds at kindergarten and first grade and second grade. I'll be ready for them at high school, and you will have planted beautiful trees. I'm just going to pick the fruit when they get here, okay? But we appreciate it. I love what I do. We love what we do, and we thank you for being our partners in GISD.
Wow, thank you so much. On behalf of the GISD FACE department and the team here, and then the panelists, we want to thank you families for joining us. Please remember to like and share this information. There's resources in the chat. If there's something that you thought was really good and you want to share it with someone else, you won't hurt our feelings, right? Please share and like. And we hope that everyone has a wonderful night. Thank you.